Hello Griffin Scopers, welcome to this little corner of YouTube, the place where we like to do soul birth card character analysis, looking at the various energies that are bouncing around a person's life, looking at what their character traits are, what their actual life lessons are that they're being served, what kind of things were they coming into this world to learn. So we're going to get into all that good stuff. We are covering the legend that is Brian Wilson. He recently crossed over just a couple of days ago, about the 11th of June, I think it was, and he died at the ripe old age of 82. He will go down in history, guys, for being the innovative, creative genius that he was. He left us some fabulous tunes. Do you remember Good Vibrations? Such an uplifting, summertime, happy-go-lucky feel to that track. But his life wasn't always full of good vibrations. He was quite eccentric. He had a lot of trials and tribulations going on. So before I get into that, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, pop the notification bell on and the thumbs up, all good. And if anybody would like to book in a private reading with me, then my email address is in the description box. I'm all up together, thank goodness, with my private reading, so you will be read for quickly. Let's get into the job in hand and let's have a look and see what Brian's got for his soul and birth cards. So he's one of those unusual people that he's got the double whammy going on. So his character card is the Devil and the Lovers. So this will be the more dominating energy because he is a Gemini. Gemini governs the Lovers. And then we've got this opposite energy of the Devil card, which is going to teach him some of what it's like to have a good relationship with himself as well as other people. Guys, think of the character cards as like the immediate impression that a person gives you with their character traits, their personality traits. And then the soul cards give us that deeper meaning, what their life lessons are. And then the year cards give the overall bigger picture. So this character card birth set pairing is amped up in terms of its energy, frequency and vibration because it's doubled. So his life path has been about confronting his inner demons and for the sake of his relationships, the one that he has with himself and for the relationship he has with other people, confronting all those destructive patterns, maybe addictions, and learning to break out of limitation and bondage is what it's going to be for this lifetime. And however, these cards, I don't want to make it sound all negative. However, these cards do also offer the possibility of profound transformation and liberation as well from these entanglements, as we shall see. So from the get-go then, Brian was growing up in a very abusive household. The devil would be his father, who used to physically beat him and made him feel like he was unworthy of being loved. So this made Wilson very much highly strung, nervous and frightened of everything. And he was actually deaf in one ear, and that was said to come from one of his father's beatings. He would attack him with things like lead pipes, closed fists, open hands. And what's really sad is that Wilson was never able to hear his music in stereo. So Brian experienced the worst of the worst that life has to offer in terms of abuse from a very early age. He experienced a lot of restriction and limitation. He learnt what being chained up, we see that chain right there, there's Wilson, and you know, he was literally tortured and he knew his father was monstrous, but there was nothing he could do about it at that age to liberate himself. So through his life, he did struggle to let go of these traumas and chains, and developed schizophrenia within his childhood, probably no doubt brought on from the inner conflict and feeling emotionally overwhelmed by what his father was doing. He wrote such happy-go-lucky tunes and associated, those, like I said, those tunes were associated with freedom and thrill-seeking, surfing, summer joy, California. But at the height of his powers, in his early to mid-20s, he did actually become a recluse and rarely left his home. Food was one of his addictions and coping mechanisms, along with self-medicating with all sorts of drugs, abuse of alcohol, in order to help with those, mental health problems, and the pressure as well of the music business all contributed to his reliance on substances. He was full of eccentricities, and this is one that I do like. He actually had his living room, he called it the sandbox, but it virtually covered the entire living room with sand, because he didn't actually surf despite writing a lot of songs about surfing. And he used to like to he placed his piano in the middle of this sandbox, and he would wiggle his toes in the sand while he composed these happy tunes. So his breaking through of any unhealthy patterns didn't cease when William Wilson was 23. He became a patient of Eugene Landy, a psychiatrist who was very much into micromanaging a 24-hour therapy program, so not much freedom in that. He stripped Wilson of all his freedoms, violated many ethical and moral principles of the therapy, and eventually had his license and practice revoked. And he did go and practice in Mexico, and Mexico is the country that governs the devil. Also, Wilson had 2 marriages. So the first would be to Marilyn Ravel. They had 2 daughters who went on to form the pop band Wilson Phillips. But it was his second wife, Melinda, who was the love of his life, and finally somebody who actually had his back. And she really did help stand up to Brian's Svengali psychiatrist, and eventually got him away. I think he was with that psychiatrist for some 9 years. It was a long time. She could see that Brian was being over-medicated, and she feared brain damage for him. And it's interesting because although it's unknown what Brian Wilson died of, he did have advanced forms of dementia when he passed over. So it was she really that got those chains off him. And, he was released then. And he said that she was much more than his wife. She was his saviour. She gave him the emotional security that he'd never felt before. So this was, a beautiful marriage, a lovely relationship, something where he could really experience true, emotional, deep love for somebody, and to be loved as well. And the Lover's card is all about learning to make the right choices in life, not those quick choices that lead you down the road to fast fun, but they don't last very long. This was a marriage that lasted till she crossed over. She went first, and she taught him, like I said, so much about love, and it ended a long span of loneliness in Wilson's life. He literally regained his life actually when he met her, and she really kind of supported him to make music that was authentic and close to his heart. She encouraged all that. In fact, a film was made about Wilson, and it goes into some detail about their relationship. I want to watch it later on. Now, it's called something like Love and Mercy, if you want to look it up. But when she did die, he was heartbroken. She was his primary caregiver and support in life for his mental health issues. And her death left him very vulnerable once again. And thus he was placed under conservatorship. And although his death is undisclosed, like I said, he was in the last stages of dementia. His years of abusing alcohol, drugs, and the drugs that had been, the pharmaceuticals that had been dealt to him probably all took their toll. But his year cards are the Star card, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favourite cards in the deck. And the Strength card. So for me, this kind of, because he's died in this year, he's crossed over in this year, and this for me kind of represents overcoming his struggles with drug addiction and mental health issues. I mean, they were always there, but they were lessened greatly by his wife's presence. And he always followed his passions, he always followed his North Star, despite those struggles. And those struggles as well were internal as well as external. And his music will always remain a guiding light, a beacon of guiding light, should I say. The beauty in those harmonies, I mean, they were just off the scale. And I also noticed with his name being Wilson, and this card has a lot to do with one's will, being brave, being strong, and his human spirit found the resilience in that Strength card to kind of bounce back, keep creating and keep inspiring people, and that will transcend his death. That will go on. He's fed into that historic musical gene pool. It's always going to be there to inspire people. So, guys, that was his life lessons. My God, weren't they ever tough and traumatic? It must have been horrendous to go through all of that and not being able to escape a brutal father figure, not being able to get out of the chains from that psychiatrist therapy 24/7. I mean, that is enough to drive you mad, isn't it? And did he get through some of those life lessons? Well, maybe he did towards the end, when he met his wife and everything, and he really learned about what it was like to have a positive relationship with himself as well as somebody else, a beautiful life partner. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Make of that what you will. But before we go, let's just pull a few charms and see what we can get for Brian. Let's really dig deep. So sometimes I pull a lot, and sometimes I pull just a couple, but we've got a few here. Interesting. Right, so I'm starting off with the number 9. Number 9 relates to completion in the angel numbers. So yeah, he led a complete life. He gave as much as he could. We've got the angel medallion, and it's Angel Raphael. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the angel that is shown in the Rider-Waite Lovers card above the two figures, and it's an angel of healing as well. So yeah, everything I'm saying, you know, about the star and all of that, it's all to do with faith, hope and healing particularly. We've got a dolphin, and the dolphin is actually jumping through hoops. That's something that he had to do in his life, jump through hoops with his mental health issues. We've also got a mermaid, and she's got her back that's turned to us. And, you know, I'm just thinking about his life. It has come to a close now in the 3D, and turning his back, moving into the spirit world now. The last one is the Cancerian symbol. Note there's a star as well, and we've just been talking about stars. And the crab, it does tend to move in a sidewards kind of manner. I said he was very shy, and, you know, creeping up to people sideways as opposed to full on kind of reminds me of some of what his character traits used to be. And the shell as well, very protective, that hard shell. Interesting. Okay, last one is the key. And no, sorry, we've got two more. The key, what do keys do? They unlock chains, they unlock doors. The magic key, it's got a love heart on it as well. So my feeling is that that was his second wife, unlocking the chains that bound him. Lastly, we've got this diamond, and on the gemstone scale, the diamond is the hardest material. Now we go back to the strength card here, don't we? One of his life lessons, all about building inner strength, resilience to overcome some of those really difficult, destructive patterns. So everything that he went through with all of that abuse tells us that he actually came out a much stronger person. The will was strong. Will some. Love it. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Make of that what you will. Drop your comments in the box below. Fly well, my friends. Have a good day.